Good evening or good afternoon, depending on what side of the pond you're on, and welcome to Across the Pitch EFL Week 8 Review, Week 9 Preview. My name is Phil Kennedy, and as always for these episodes, I'm joined by my co-host Tony Robinson. It is Sunday evening in the great Northern Ontario, Canada. How's the weather up there, Tony?
Well, we haven't got any snow yet, and nice sunny day today. Raked some leaves and cut some grass today, so everything's good, Phil.
Yeah, Tony, I'll tell you, I was driving home from the Phoenix Rising game last night about midnight, and I saw in my car that it was 72 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the coldest I've seen it here in about 6 months.
Ready when you are, Phil.
Well, Tony, so I think the first thing that we have to talk about is we're going to run down the score for 10 matches and not 12 from Saturday because there were 2 that were postponed. Of course, one of those included our beloved Accrington Stanley. There were at least 8 Accrington players who tested positive for the COVID-19. Good news is it sounds like all of them either have mild or no symptoms. So at this point, we're just kind of hoping everybody returns to full health quickly and that there's not any more cases. So that, of course, caused the postponement of the Accrington versus Bristol Rovers game. And, I could tell that people were bored in Accrington without the game, because we got over 300 streams yesterday, so there just must have been nothing else to do in Accrington.
Well, they're having some tough times in and around that area, and more almost into a lockdown again. So that second wave is hitting the area, and if you have to stay inside, why not listen to 2 guys that are going to talk about Stanley and League One football? So.
Absolutely. And, stay safe, wear your masks, and,
yep.
We'll get through this eventually. The other match that was postponed due to the coronavirus, of course, it involved Oxford United. I mean, talk about snake bitten, but it wasn't positive tests on the Oxford side. It was positive tests from Swindon, and you got to feel bad for Oxford. I believe this is the 3rd match they've had either postponed or rescheduled now, and it always seems to be the other team that's getting the positive tests. I'll tell you, I wouldn't want to go to a casino with anybody from Oxford right now.
Yeah, they had trouble with, I believe it was with the Crew. And they've only played 6 matches, at least in the division, and everybody else, most of the other teams are on 8. Mm-hmm. And with Swindon having the issues and Stanley, obviously that looks like it's going to affect the Tuesday night schedule. Although the EFL hasn't said anything yet, I can't see how that match will go on, Phil.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think like we were talking about earlier, Tony, in some ways, I guess it's a blessing that they're playing each other, because any match involving either of those teams is likely to be postponed, and especially given the fact that both teams are having issues, I'm surprised they haven't already just announced it. But yeah, I don't think that we'll see that happen on Tuesday.
No, to the point where we're not really going to be previewing, giving a preview on that match at this point, because we don't anticipate it going forth.
But what we do have to go over is 10 results that happened on Saturday. There were 4 games that we went in depth on, and the Oxford and Swindon match was one of those. So unfortunately, we'll only have 3 to go on depth on. And the first one involves what was kind of our co-game of the week here. There was like a 1 and 1A. Yeah. This was the number 1, at least in my book, which was Lincoln City versus the Tractor Boys of Ipswich Town. And this one ended 1-0 in favor of the Ips. and now see our surprise sleeper team of the year sitting atop the table and a happy Matt Pierce. What did you think about that one, Tony?
It was Lincoln obviously caught Ipswich at a time after their first loss, and we talked about this last week that Ipswich was a big match for them based on what they did last year when they lost the first match. They went into a bit of a tailspin, and playing a tough Lincoln team, they were hoping for a result, and I think. When I looked at that penalty, I'm not sure what you think, Phil, but I've seen those not given, and so I wasn't totally 100% convinced that it was a penalty. It looked like a shoulder to shoulder to me, but they gave it a penalty and he scored, so that's all that counts.
Well, I went very in depth, about 3,000 words worth of in depth in an article that I wrote a couple weeks ago in a Phoenix Rising preview about how I prefer the human error of referee over the idea of VAR. So I don't think I'm really in much of a position to complain much about a referee call one way or another, unless it's just something absolutely egregious. And like you said, Tony, it's just one of those ones where it could have been called one way or the other. It did get called this time. George Grant put it away. He's a Golden Boot leader right now. He's a guy that we talked about at the beginning of the year that we thought was going to have a big year. So we could pat ourselves on the back about that one, Tony.
I was just going to say, we talked about the percentage of shots, and I mean, they certainly had not a great percentage, but certainly better than Ipswich.
36% to 25%. They were 4 out of 11 compared to 2 out of 8. And 36% doesn't sound that great, but it's really right near that 40% that I consider to be ideal. Because I mean, it's nice to be at 80% or 60% or 50% even, but sometimes I think when you see those really, really high percentages, that it means maybe teams are being a little bit too selective. When I tend to look at the leading scorers in the league in a given season, they all tend to be right between 40 and 45% is something I've known.
Yeah, and I think Ipswich would probably feel like they should have come out with a point, certainly based on possession, where they had 62%. But when you watch some of the play by Lincoln, you can just tell they've got that swagger now, that confidence. And when you're in that form and that rich vein of form, you're going to get wins like this. So. The thing is, the key is for Lincoln is just to ride it as long as they can, because a lot of people hadn't picked Lincoln to be where they are now. So long may it continue for the Imps.
Well, the other thing that I look at with this game is we've compared Lincoln a lot to this year's Wickham, if you will, because Wickham was kind of that sleeper team that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, and Wickham haven't woke up yet in the championship, by the way. Hey, sorry, I just had to throw that in. Go ahead.
But basically what I was getting at is Wickham last year, they won a lot of games like this. And, as a sleeper team, you're not going to be a team that comes out and wins 4-0 every week. You're going to have to grind some out. So I think this victory speaks volumes.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to our co-game of the week. And I'm going to say this is one of those ones where I bet if you went and talked to some casinos, they're going to tell you they lost some money on this match. I had talked about how the gambling line really pointed towards that they were trying to get people to bet on Portsmouth. Well, if people bet on Portsmouth, they were a happy camper, because Portsmouth got not just a win at the Stadium of Light, but a 3-1 win. And And if this wasn't one of our in-depth games, this would definitely be my surprise of the week, just because not so much just that Portsmouth won, but just like everything about this game is completely the opposite of what I expected. I expected 1-0 one way or another.
Yeah, I think the line was different than what we expected. And that just, I forgot to add on to when we talked about Lincoln and Ipswich that we had for our predictions on that result, Phil, is we both had it as a 2-1 Lincoln win. And it was actually 1-0. So we were both on the right tracks as far as that was concerned.
I know I missed the Sunderland when I had 1-0 to the Mackhams.
Yeah, and I had it as a draw. I certainly didn't see, based on play to date and records to date, I certainly didn't see a 3-1 win.
Yeah, I don't think anybody saw that score line, and these have just been teams that have really kind of been parking the bus and having trouble scoring, and their goalkeepers have played well, and you kind of thought the home team was going to get it, and so I guess maybe the Kenny Jacket haters maybe need to quiet their tune a little bit, because it seems like Pompey really has turned a corner.
Well, they're in fifth position right now, and as we said at the beginning of the season, they're going to be okay. And it was just that people were pressing the panic button within a week or two. But when you look at the stats. I mean, Sunderland had 57% of the play, but the killer stat that we've talked about that really hurt them is 10 shots and only one on target, which is the one they scored. So you can't do that at home against a team like Portsmouth because I think the best they could have hoped for was a draw. But I mean, after when they got the second goal and then that Marquise played a good game, and he combined with Callum Johnson. I think that was one of the goals that was called back. But you can see where they're starting to gel, and Callum Johnson is fitting into that team. Mm-hmm. And then certainly the penalty really seal the 3 points for Pompey.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, I mean, the shot percentage well in favor of Pompey, 7 out of 11, 64%. 1 out of 10 for Sunderland, 10%. So far, we're 2 for 2 on the teams that won the shooting percentage battle, also winning the match. And now let's move on to the last of our in-depth games. And this is one that I believe I had the correct winner of the game. I don't think I had the score line right. I think I maybe said 3-2, and it was 2-1.
Yes, you were. Yep, you were right. 3-2. You had 3-2, and it was 2-1, and I had a whole victory, to be honest.
Well, it was the Posh showing that they really have turned the corner. Hull did get out in front early with a 36-minute goal from Malik Wilkes. However, in the second half, the Posh got 2 goals 8 minutes apart. Johnson Clark Harris and then Demiele both scored. It was Clark Harris's 4th goal of the season. And like I had mentioned last week, it seems like Clark Harris has gotten on a roll. And as he's gotten on a roll, so has the Posh. And it seems like he's so far doing a decent job of filling Ivan Toney's shoes.
And I think they were the second goal, you could say lucky, because he got a really kind deflection and for Peterborough. So, and that's when you're in good form, you make your own breaks, don't you? You make your own luck, and that's what Peterborough did. I mean, when you look at it, they only had 5 shots, 2 on target, and they won 2-1. You talk about efficiency, and I think Darren Ferguson has to be really pleased with the result there, because that easily could have been and probably should have been a draw.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing that I do look at is Peterborough did win the shooting percentage battle. They were 3 shots on target out of 5, 60%. Hull needed 13 shots to get their 3 on target. So we're 3 for 3 on this shooting percentage battle so far. But, I could definitely see what you're saying because I was following this game closely, and up until probably Peterborough got that first goal, I thought Hull was going to win this one, and then it really just seemed to kind of turn around after that.
Yeah, I think Hull is a team that is doing better than I anticipated. And I'm looking forward to when we get about 12 matches in, and then we do our review show, and we'll take a look at where teams are, because I think there's going to be some changes to what we had preseason. But Hull is going to be one of those teams we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, we're only a few weeks away from that review show, and a lot of interesting things that have happened so far, and it'll be interesting to see where the table sits and how that stacks up versus our earlier predictions. But let's just go ahead and quickly run through the other 7 results now. The first one is one that was a bit interesting to me. You had Fleetwood Town 2-0 over Gillingham. That one was at Gillingham, and it seems like Fleetwood is another one of those teams that are getting back on track. A couple weeks ago, I had mentioned that lack of production for Paddy Madden and Ched Evans was a big problem for them. Well, they had 2 goals on Saturday. First one by Paddy Madden, second one by Ched Evans. So, if they get those 2 guys rolling, I think Fleetwood will be back closer to where they were supposed to be.
Yeah, and I think it was a result that everybody was looking at for our Fleetwood win. And the Gillingham had a player sent off at the 83rd minute, and of course, then Fleetwood got the second goal at in 3 minutes into injury time. So playing with 10 men obviously hurt Gillingham, but it's a result that I think that doesn't surprise anybody, really.
Yeah, well, the thing that I would look at here is, I looked at this as kind of a toss-up coming in where I thought Fleetwood was maybe a little bit better, but Gillingham had the home pitch advantage. This one did go as an outlier, where Gillingham had 5 out of 10 shots on target. Fleetwood only had 2 out of 10, so that one falls into the outlier column. But once we have an outlier column, you know what the first thing I always look for, Tony, is?
Yeah, I think you're looking for a hot keeper between the pipes, right?
Well, that's what I found, and Jason Lutweiler, who definitely knows the term between the pipes because he's actually Canadian, stopped all 5 shots that he saw against Gillingham, and a 5-save clean sheet is usually a pretty good day at the office for a keeper.
Yep. Good result. As I say, not really too surprising for me.
All right, how about this next one? It was actually the exact same result in that the road team won 2-0, except for this time it was Charlton Athletic over Northampton. I think this is another one where really maybe the only surprise is that it was the road team winning, but I think everybody probably thinks that Charlton is better than Northampton.
Oh, yeah. It was just a question of with the start of the season, the trouble off the pitch and problems bringing players in. But I think with the manager there, I certainly had higher hopes than Northampton. And I think if you look at look at where they are sitting now in the table, I think they're both going in the direction that we expected them to be in.
Yeah, I mean, at Charlton, they dropped down from the championship. Northampton, they came up from League Two, so there's that gulf in talent. Just quickly looking at the shots, Charlton was a perfect 40%, 2 for 5, where Northampton was 2 of 9, 22%. So that makes it 4-1 now so far for teams that had the better shooting percentage as we're halfway through the slate of games. The next one coming up here, and there's something that I do need to mention in this one. Last week we had referred to this game as the Toilet Bowl.
Oh.
And our friend Andrew Bolte, who is a Rochdale supporter from New Mexico, he took offense to us calling the Rochdale game.
I wonder why he took offense to the toilet bowl.
But so what I've decided to do is, so Tony, we have a few different sound effects that we do throughout the show. So now, from now on going forward, in honor of Andrew, we will play a toilet flushing sound effect every time we discuss the Rochdale match. And just to be fair and say that we're not above having fun with ourselves, if you've been listening for the show for a while, you do know that we have a tin pot sound effect. And we're going to start playing that whenever we talk about the Accrington match, just to say that, hey, we own it.
Well, and then I'll get upset when you do the tin pot sound for Stanley. But there goes our budget, Phil. All these sound effects. You know what I mean? We're going to have to get more sponsors.
They seem to be popular, but
no, it's good. More sound effects probably better for ratings, Phil.
Well, I'll tell you, in this matchup, Rochdale. Rochdale was number 2 and Shrewsbury was number 1, but that was actually on the scoreboard.
Yeah, I think they've had just a second. Just flush. There you go.
Yeah, we're a highly mature show here.
This show is going down the toilet. But going back to on a serious note, it's a good week for Rochdale. Two wins and a good result for them. Shrewsbury was a team that we sort of picked as a benchmark for those teams in the relegation battle, and Rochdale we had down there. So you've got to beat teams that are you figure are going to be in and around you at the end of the season, and winning on the road. I said when they played Stanley, Rochdale played well. So it's a good win for them. Well earned the 3 points for the Dale.
Absolutely. And just a quick look at the shooting percentage. 30%, 3 out of 10 for Rochdale, 15%, 3 out of 20 for Shrewsbury. So now it is 6-1 to the side of teams that have the better shooting percentage. Moving on, we have a draw between Plymouth Argyle and Wigan Athletic. That one was at Wigan. Were you surprised at all by this result, Tony?
Not the way things have been going for Wigan. I expected more from them, and they had to come from behind to get a point. So Plymouth are doing better than I expected. So probably, it's a good result for Plymouth on the road, playing the team that dropped down from the championship. Although the number of players, the player list is completely different, it's still a team that dropped down. So a good away point for the Argyle.
Yeah, I agree, and I think this is probably a good result for both teams because Wigan had really been struggling. So really, just to kind of get 80 point right now was good for Wigan. This one was a draw, so it doesn't go in either column. But for posterity's sake, Wigan had a 4 out of 10, 40% shooting percentage, 4 out of 19, 21% for the Argyle. Now moving forward, we have just 3 matches left to talk about here. The next one is Doncaster, Crew Alexander. And in this one, Donnie was just a bit out of their element, even at home, losing to the Crew 2-1. This one would be my surprise of the week. Tony, I did not see this coming.
I agree. This one written down as my surprise result of the week because the way Doncaster had been performing, I expected a home win, to be honest with you, and for Crew to go into Doncaster and come away with 3 points. All the credit to them. Obviously, they scored first. Doncaster came straight back and got an equalizer. And sometimes a team, that can sort of knock a team down. But credit to Crew, they stuck in there and pulled out a winner in the 70th minute. So well done to the Crew.
Yeah, absolutely. And Crew, they were a team that came up from League Two that I thought that they might be a little bit better than some of the other teams that were coming up. They really impressed me when they beat Stanley in a cup match last year. So I kind of had them marked a little bit as a sleeper going back to the preview episode. I liked them a little bit better than some of the other promoted teams. And I think that we certainly saw that here. I didn't expect it, though, especially at home. With Doncaster, they had been in great form. They seem to have maybe had a little bit of a letdown after their win over Ipswich. One really impressive stat for Crew, though, is our favorite shooting percentage stat. They were actually 7 out of 8, 88%, where Doncaster was 6 of 20, 30%. So far, we've only had one outlier game. It just seems like the shooting percentage battle is telling us a lot this week again.
Yeah, it seems to be running into form, it's what we expect. Really, we should see. But as you say, there's always an outlier or two, and this week's no exception.
Yeah, and it just seems like I said, it comes down to either you win that shooting percentage battle or your goalie better be having a good night.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, now we have Burton Albion and AFC Wimbledon. They had a 1-1 draw, and I think that's about what I expected out of this match. These are two teams that, they struggle and claw, and they're small clubs, and 1-1's about right.
Well, I think Burton will be happy with the point, but based on the stats, I think their manager would have been expecting to come out of there with 3 points. But when you're conceding the goals that you are, and you're at the bottom, you've got to stop the bleeding. And it would have been nice to get a win for them to get a win. But to get a point and just give up a goal, they have to be happy, and maybe they can build on that.
Well, I completely agree. And looking at the shooting percentage battle, AFC Wimbledon was 1 out of 4, 25%. Burton was 5 out of 10, 50%. That keeps going back to a guy whose name keeps coming up, and that's Connell Truman. He did manage to make 4 saves out of those 5 shots that came his direction. And, I don't know if there is a more important player to any team in the league right now than Truman is to AFC Wimbledon, other than maybe Joe Piggott to AFC Wimbledon. I mean, can you imagine? Wimbledon is really kind of a 2-man team where Piggott, if he doesn't score, nobody scores, and then otherwise they're just kind of relying on Truman to stop everything.
Well, and that's not smart business to do that, because it's a long season, and you've got to watch out for injuries. And if one of those or both players drop out of form, then so goes the team. So it's risky business having 2 main players that are the backbone of your team.
Absolutely. Moving on to our last match from week 8, it was Blackpool, who seems to have gotten a little bit back on track with a 1-0 win at home over MK Dons. I mean, I don't know that a win over MK Dons is anything to write home about, but for right now, I think the Blackpool just getting any win was big.
Yeah, it was important for them to get a result. And at the end of the day, it's 3 points. So sometimes you don't care how you get it. You just want the 3 points and to stop, as I said, to stop that bleeding. And it's their first win for a while, and it gets them out of the bottom 4. And it's something to build on because if you're a team that's expected to be up challenging. You've got to start putting things together within that first 10 to 12 matches, and maybe this is a turning point for Blackpool because they've got to stop the goals, and they did with a clean sheet and also with getting a 1-0 win. So the good result for Blackpool.
Yeah, I mean, the clean sheet to me is as big as the win because, like you said, they had really been struggling, giving up too many goals. With the shooting percentage, they did win that battle. They were 50%, 2 out of 4. MK Dons was 14%, 1 out of 7. So that means this week, out of the 10 matches, 7 teams that won the shooting percentage battle, one lost, and then there were the 2 draws. So, but Tony, you had 4 games for Tuesday written down that they were going to go over. What was the first one?
Well, let's take a look at Ipswich at home to Gillingham. We've got the 4th place team against the 14th, and I think this is an important match for Ipswich because if you look at they've lost 2 in a row, and so this is a big match now at home. They've only had 3 matches at home, 5 on the road. So, but they're a perfect record at home and 6 goals for, 0 against. So this is going to be a tough one for Gillingham. But it's if you can get in there and get the first goal, Ipswich might be a little nervous. But for me, I think it's going to be it's a big match for Gillingham, for Ipswich, I should say, and it might be a tough goal for Gillingham.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Ipswich, like you said, they've lost 2 in a row. And last year, it was kind of like they got off to that hot start. And then once they had the loss to Stanley, they had a little bit of a backslide. So it's entirely possible that Ipswich could be going into another backslide like that. That being said, Gillingham hasn't been in real good form. Looking at the betting line, Gillingham is a plus 430, which is, you're winning almost $5 for every dollar that you bet at that point. So, the odds makers definitely like the Tractor Boys. I'm going to have to say 2-0 to the Tractor Boys in this one.
Well, funny you say that, Phil, because that's what I have written down for my score as well. 2-0 win for Ipswich. Gillingham have lost 3 in a row. And so Ipswich, having lost 2 in a row, I think Gillingham's a good team for them to play this weekend to turn their slide down.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. Okay. The next one I had down, which is 13th place Crew against our friends at the first place Lincoln. You don't get to say that too often, but no. So this one should be an interesting match because you look at Crew and 4 home games, they won 2 and only lost 1, drawing 1, and they have a +3 goal difference. So I think Crew can't be taken lightly, especially playing at home.
Well, in fact, if you look at the betting line, Crew is a plus 148, Lincoln is a plus 180. So the odds makers have Crew favored in spite of the fact that Lincoln's top of the table. The draw is going off at plus 230. To me, this line screams at me that the casino is guarding against the draw. So I'm going to say this one ends in a 2-2 draw.
Have you been peeking at my notes, Phil? Because that's exactly what I got written down here: a 2-2 draw.
Or I can have a very hard argument on Tuesday.
Well, and I mean, Lincoln, 3 away matches, they haven't lost yet, but I just got that feeling that this is one game that that I see a stalemate in this one, Phil. And if anything, this one is, to me, is Lincoln's on a roll. They're playing well. They're playing with confidence. They got the swagger, as I said. So if anything, they might be able to
in good form.
Yeah, yes, exactly. When you look at Crew, they've won 3 out of the last 5. So this could be one of the top matches of the weekend, and probably the reason with 2 teams in good form. You could let's see if we're right with the draw. I think there'll be some.
Yeah, I mean, it's assuming that Stanley is canceled. I might give this one a watch.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to watch, and certainly give. Let's see. What the fuss is about with Lincoln, because let's see if they're for real. I've got Plymouth because we haven't done much talked much about them. Got ninth place Plymouth Argyle taking on Doncaster, who's in 7th place. Only 1 point apart for each other. Plymouth have got a nice home record of they play 3 wins and a draw. So they're going to be a tough team at home, and I think it's going to be a tough match for Doncaster, Phil.
All right. Well, Tony, it sounds like you think that Donny is going to be a bit out of their element down in the southwest of Plymouth. The odds makers do have them actually favored. Doncaster's at a plus 138. Plymouth is at a plus 200. The draw is going off at plus 220, so this is definitely one you have to watch out for the draw for. But I think Donny gets back on track here, and I'm going to go with a 2-1 win for Donny.
Well, we're wrong on this one, Phil. I'm going the other way, because Plymouth are, as far as home table is, if you look at the home form, they're second in the league in home form. And I think that's enough to carry the day. And after Doncaster losing, I think their confidence may be a little bit shattered. So I'm going with a Argyle 2-1 win.
That's interesting. You're going with the shattered confidence. I'm going with the bounce back. So.
well, let's see. And you know what? This could end up a draw, but I think it's interesting that we've both got different takes on it. But it's that's going to be another match, because if you look at both, in mid-table, and both teams, Plymouth doing better than probably what people expected, and really, if they win this one, they're going to be pushing into the playoff position. So this is going to be a big match for both teams.
Absolutely.
And the last one I had, Phil, was really, if you look at the table. And I always like to look at a match down the bottom, because it's so important when you get 3 points that
you can pointers. Maybe what we should do is we should pick one match to go in depth on every week and call that the toilet bowl.
Well, we could. And
what's the toilet bowl this week, Tony?
The toilet bowl is AFC, Wimbledon, and Blackpool.
Ooh. All right, well, let's look at the odds. It looks like Blackpool is favored, even though it's at Wimbledon. Blackpool's a plus 118. Wimbledon's a plus 225. The draw is at plus 235. I'm going to say 1-1 draw. I'm going to say Joe Pigott scores a goal for Wimbledon. Connell Truman stops 5 out of 6 shots from Blackpool, and we ended a 1-1 draw.
Well, before I give you my prediction, the reason I went this direction is because AFC Wimbledon haven't won at home yet, and Blackpool haven't won away yet. So, and to be honest with you, the way these teams have conceded some goals of late, there's nothing there to change my mind. And I'm actually, again, we're on the same page because I had written down here 1-1 draw as well, Phil.
Yeah, both teams get an own goal.
You might not be too far off that one, Phil. But I think there's some better matches on the slate, and I think that the Crewe Lincoln match could be a good one to watch, as well as Plymouth and Doncaster.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, overall there's some games where they're going to be kind of one-sided. I think that at Pompey, for instance, will probably handle Northampton the way that they've been playing. Same thing with the Posh over Burton. But, there's always a few games out there that end up as our surprise of the week. It'll be fun to see what one that ends up being.
Well, I think we're getting to that stage now where teams are starting to jockey for positions. And as we say, most of the teams have played 8 matches. So you get the 9th match on Tuesday. Within 2 to 3 weeks, we'll have 12 matches under our belt. And I'm looking forward to that point where we can sort of do a comparison to what our preseason picks were and look at the surprise teams of the first quarter and the disappointments. And that's going to be fun. But we're starting to see things take shape, and some good matches on Tuesday night, and that will lead into this weekend. So the action is eating up hot and heavy, Phil.
I'm looking forward to it, Tony, and we will check in again and do a recording on Wednesday to go over these matches and look ahead until Saturday. Until then, on Stanley On.
On Stanley On. Cheers.
Cheers, Tony. Do.
We got no money to pay for the sound for the playoff music because we've spent it all on sound effects.
Float posters. Now you can get top quality, high gloss, full color infographics from Afloat Posters featuring all of the clubs from your favorite league, including EFL League One and USL Championship. Afloat Posters also has infographics featuring defunct historic leagues and even new infographics featuring past and present teams from your hometown. You can get 3 different sizes of posters at Afloat Posters starting at just $8.99 US. And now you can save 10% on anything at the website afloatposters.com. Using the promo code ATP10. That's ATP10. Just enter that code at checkout for 10% off at Afloat Posters.